Hey, Dean Yeager.
Alrighty, welcome back. Starting of a new series today. We've kind of teased it and hit on it before, but we are going to start a series on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and basically kind of go in order in which they were released, not the timeline order that you look at it. That gets a little confusing. This is honestly, it's hard enough, but but we're in the order in which they were released. That's where we're going to go. And we're going to start by giving an homage to one because this one is not technically part of it, but it was the first one to come out. It was 2003's Hulk with Eric Bana.
Yeah, Eric Bana, Ang Lee's Hulk in 2003. It acts like a pseudo stepping stone into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was done by Universal, who had at that point the distribution and production rights.
Yeah.
And then later on, Marvel secured the production rights, but not the distribution rights. So it couldn't. So the problem they were having with Universal was they had to agree on certain things.
Yeah.
But 2003's Hulk, I thought it was pretty darn good. I enjoyed it.
You can Spider-Man, and then of course DC always had Superman and Batman come out, but this was really like the first big,
Yes.
and it's the Hulk. If you don't know anything about Marvel, you should know the Hulk. And I thought it was a great job. I'm more of a DC guy. The comic books I read as far as Marvel was Spider-Man and what was the other one I read? A little bit of X-Men.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't read about I knew who Iron Man was and Thor and all those. Didn't know a lot about them. I didn't know any of the villains. I didn't know who Thanos was.
I'm a little bit steeped in some more of the mythology than you are.
Definitely.
I've got a little bit, but with Hulk, you had was it Jennifer Connelly?
Jennifer Connelly is the love interest. Sam Elliott as General.
Sam Elliott as General Thunderbolt Ross. And I thought he did a great job as
he was the one that could have probably plucked in and brought over.
Yeah.
And then when they came out with it again.
And then the father, Nick Nolte, who is always reliable, plays a sort of kind of pseudo version of the Absorbing Man to some degree.
That makes sense. I had no idea who he was playing, but that does make sense because what does he say? That the more you fight, the more power I absorb from you.
And again, to be clear, it is not necessarily part of the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe, which starts with what we're going to get into here in just a second.
Let's just segue into it. The very first movie that kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe, quote unquote, was Iron Man. Came out in May of 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And boy, did they get started on the right foot? And maybe that's why, because again, you said 2003 it was Universal. Marvel Studios, there was no Marvel Studios.
No.
They were trying to get their act together, and they finally said, okay, we're going to start here. We're going to start with Iron Man. They give the director duties to Jon Favreau, which is fascinating. If you hear Jeff Bridges talk about it, they had no script. They would sit in the trailer, Favreau, Downey Jr., and Bridges, and hash out what they were going to shoot that day. And to come out with that, which is great. It's probably my favorite Iron Man out of the series.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And it was amazing.
You're talking about a film that started something that set a precedent that no other franchise has done before. I know we talk about, Fast and Furious or the James Bond series, Star Trek, these kind of things, but not the interconnected universe.
Do you really think, though, when they came out with Iron Man 1 that they had plans for
No.
all of this.
No, absolutely not.
It seems like it just kind of organically grew and it
Right.
just got bigger. And a lot of decisions they made were right. They kept hitting home runs.
They did.
They didn't strike out. I remember, and we're getting a little far ahead. We'll talk about it when we get to that point. But when they were going to release Guardians of the Galaxy, remember I told this guy, I said, it's going to flop. They're finally going to have a flop. Boy, was I way off base. But no, I was an immediate fan when Iron Man 1 came out. I don't think I knew you yet because I don't think we met until like 2009.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when this came out, I didn't really have a lot of friends that were huge Marvel fans. I know Daniel, who's been on the show a few times, told me when I think we watched The Incredible Hulk, which we'll get into that here in a sec, but he was like, oh, it's the Avengers. I'm like, what's the Avengers? So yeah, back to what you were saying. I don't think they organically planned. And that's what I think they did such a good job at. Let's take baby steps. Let's crawl before we walk. And as this thing unfolds and we figure out more what we can do, then we'll branch out.
And to think about it, especially too with bringing out that's another big risk. You're not talking about Spider-Man, which had his own series before then, as we know, through Sony. We're not talking about any of the really big heroes. Captain America, probably more well known than Iron Man, obviously.
Yeah.
Or admittedly to a lot of people, Iron Man. For all the fans out there, and I had a few issues Iron Man when I was younger, when I collected, but Iron Man he was a founding member of the Avengers, to be sure, but it's not that name, that character didn't technically resonate with the entire world over when you heard his name. I'm not relegating the guy to to a back seat by any means, to like grade C level. I'm just saying that who would have thought Iron Man in 2008?
To me, that's why you got to give it all to Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. That's
got to
why,
give
yes.
it to him.
Yeah.
What is I think Mark Ruffalo calls him the Godfather of Marvel.
Yeah.
And really that's true. But and then this sort of and then you get your post credit scene of. And Samuel L. Jackson introduces Nick Fury, the Avengers Initiative, and then a month later we get the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Which, going back to what we had mentioned before, it's not supposed to be part of it, but they do kind of expect that you've seen it.
Yes.
It feels like where Hulk ended, Incredible Hulk begins.
Yes.
There's some parallels there.
Yeah, so you can't necessarily take, as the old spread, throw the baby out with the bathwater, because what you've got is you've got the first opening 2 minutes of the film recapping his transformation with the Gamma accident.
Yeah.
Which we saw, and they're sort of halfway assuming you saw, without saying
you didn't
that,
see
but
it.
you didn't see it.
That never happened.
Because it's not part of, so, but it's a quick run through.
Yeah.
It's a strange relationship that those two studios have, but it worked out well. I liked it, and I liked the CGI. It did catch some flack for that.
And I love Eric Bana. I love him.
Bana did great.
Edward Norton, to me, and we'll get into this later, obviously, because Ruffalo took over. I thought Edward Norton solidified, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. Of course, again, Hulk is CGI, but I was like, this guy is the Hulk. This guy's Bruce Banner. I love the film. I really did. They can give it flack all they want, and I know they were upset about the Abomination. They said he didn't look right. I just thought it was great. And then you tie it up at the end with the end credit scene. Downey Jr. shows up and says, we're putting a team together.
Right. Throughout most of the film, I'd have to say I enjoyed Tim Roth as Emil Blonsky, who eventually becomes... Now, of course, creative liberties aside, with Blonsky, I don't even know if that was his name in the film, the character's name. I know in comics he was a Russian. Of course, again, you're streamlining things for the sake of the audience,
And sake of time.
the sake of time. Certain liberties have to be taken. Liv Tyler takes over for Jennifer Connelly.
William Hurt takes over for...
for Sam Elliott. And I don't...
That was, to me, that was a smooth transition.
Yes, it was.
It's not that Sam Elliott was better or worse. It's not that William Hurt better or worse. It was a smooth transition. Liv Tyler,
Not so smooth.
Jennifer Connelly, I think you should have slid Jennifer
Yeah.
Connelly over. But again, we're not here to. I think Liv Tyler is good actress in certain things, but no. And then the fight scene with him and the Abomination, you get the iconic Hulk smash move.
Right.
They fight through Brooklyn. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they destroy it. Yeah.
Yeah, but to me, it's definitely a continuation, in my opinion, because, like I said, in the first one, he has the powers, he doesn't know how to really deal with it. In the second one, he's trying to control it.
Yeah.
So they can say it never happened, but to me, that's a direct sequel. He's trying to control the powers.
Yeah.
He's trying to be a better person. That's just me. And of course, does Stan Lee show up in the first Iron Man? I think he does.
Yeah, I
But I remember the Incredible Hulk. He's coming out of the building with
Lou Ferrigno,
the original Hulk. But so we get those two films.
Yeah,
and I'm excited now. Especially again, like I said before, I didn't know the Avengers. I didn't know what they had planned. I'm like, okay, great. It was almost 2 years that we didn't get another film. We didn't get anything in the rest of 2008. Nothing in 2009.
Right.
May of 2010, we get Iron Man 2 finally.
Yes.
And where Iron Man 1 was so great, Iron Man 2, I love the film and I love the series. But Iron Man 2 to me was like making your favorite pot of spaghetti or your birthday cake. And it's good, but you missed an ingredient somewhere. And you can't put your finger on it. It's good, but it could have been better. And that's my opinion of Iron Man 2. It's great because, again, it continues the story. And here we are leading up to the Avengers. It just, to me, it was a little bit of a miss.
Am I not mistaken, though, Favreau said that the studio did some things with the cut that he wasn't...
He blamed the studio. The studio blamed him, if I'm not mistaken. It was kind of a back and forth thing. And all due respect to Favreau, because, again, we got Iron Man 1, which is a classic. You can't touch it. It's great. Iron Man 2, it was tough. And, I mean, you cast Mickey Rourke, who's supposed to be, was it Whiplash?
Yes.
But then,
Crimson Dynamo.
Then he's Crimson Dynamo at the end, right? They kind of combined it. And again, for time and all that.
Yeah.
It just felt like something was amiss. And, obviously it's to introduce a War Machine, which we didn't mention the first one. We had Terrence Howard, right?
Terrence Howard.
And for some reason, he was left behind and they replaced him with
Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. And I love Don Cheadle. All due respect to him. But I think it's around this time that you hear the negotiations between Norton and Marvel are not going well.
Right.
So we're probably going to lose the Hulk. We've already lost War Machine, which again is a minor part, but to me, I was starting to say it already looks like the wheels are coming off, and we hadn't even really gotten started.
Yeah, because as far as a character, I always thought Terrence Howard. I thought he did a great Rhodey.
Oh yeah. Phenomenal.
And
they give the hat off at the Iron Man 1. He sees his future costume, his future suit next time.
Yeah.
What it could have been,
Yeah. Just like Norton.
It would have been interesting. Nothing again. I love Mark Ruffalo. I think he's a fantastic actor. But Norton was there first, so it would have been nice to see Norton continue.
Yeah, we can get into that. I thought, personally, with Ruffalo, we get more of a cerebral Bruce Banner. He seems like the scientist type.
Yes.
More than Norton.
Norton's the more edgier guy.
Yeah.
But no, so we're kind of in agreement on Iron Man 2 here. There's something amiss, but we're still rolling.
Well, and the one thing I do want to point out, and Rourke has his detractors. He has a lot, and even in his fan base, maybe. I got to say though, I thought he did a good job.
Oh, he did phenomenal. And then we get introduced to Scarlet Witch, your Black Widow.
Yeah.
Not Scarlet Witch, Black Widow.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
So everything's being set up. A little bit of waves in there with some of the
we got little ripples
in
here, but we're still rolling. And then we got to wait another year, and then we get, I think at the end of Iron Man 2, because they want him working, in that new element for his heart.
Right.
Agent, he's always in all of them.
Nick Fury?
No. His number
Coulson.
Agent Coulson. He's like, I got to go. Something's happened in New Mexico. And our end credit scene
I remember.
in Iron Man 2 is he's pulling up and you see the hammer.
Yeah.
And then that's where we get Thor.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I knew who Thor was, God of Thunder. I knew he had a hammer. Other than that, I didn't know anything. Nothing.
Yeah, I do vaguely recall in the comics, even though I wasn't a collector of Thor comics, he had a alias. He, just like Superman had Clark Kent and Batman had Bruce Wayne, he had Donald Blake, I believe, and Donald Blake was, believe it or not, I think he was something akin to a reporter. I don't recall, but it was Thor, but he was resigned or relegated to, he was in a wheelchair as a human. That was his
weird,
human alias.
And they didn't even mention that in Thor.
Again, they're trying
to speed things up.
Yeah. If you had a 12-hour movie, that's okay. You could do it, but
Anthony Hopkins plays.
Yeah.
And from what I understand in the comic books, he is a very powerful force.
Yes, extremely powerful.
That Hulk versus.
Yeah.
He's basically, he rules, and he has to sleep for 6 months or something,
right?
Just to recover. And while he's sleeping, Asgard is open for open season.
There's of course the cosmic side of Marvel in the comics. Now we're talking the films here, but as far as the comics, because that's the source material that what it originates from, really got started. There was Jim Starlin in the '70s, to try to expand on that. And I guess I'm getting into like Galactus. And there are people, other guys out there, Winston, to give a shout out to my friend, my coworker Winston. You probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Odin was on the same power level almost as Galactus.
Oh, wow. But yeah, we get Thor, and it fascinates me too that his brother Loki was really supposed to be kind of a one-off.
Yeah.
But the fans loved him so much, he was the main villain. And
he grows on you. Hiddleston.
He grows on. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
I'm not taking away from the actor. I was just saying Loki, the comic book. But no, so we get introduced to Thor, which is great. I love Thor 1, and we'll get into later as Thor 2 and this come out. And the end credit scene for that one, if I'm not mistaken, is they find Captain America frozen in Antarctica, I think it is, with his shield.
Yeah.
And of course that leads into Cap, which Captain America 1, the first Avenger, is I think supposed to be the unofficial start on the timeline.
Right.
Because obviously it was in the 40s.
Right.
But I was always a Captain America fan. Didn't really read the comic books. I was introduced to the 1990 film, which for better or worse, it had Red Skull in it, which I am a big Red Skull fan. Huge.
But he was Italian. He wasn't even German.
I know, but hey, what are you gonna do?
But Ned Beatty was in it.
Anyway, so I knew who Captain America was, so I was excited, and I like Chris Evans because he did do a few things before he really fell off the tracks a little bit that I was a fan of. So I was like, hey, Chris Evans is gonna do a great job, and he did. But I have to say, when we're coming out of this, and we're so it's July, I think, in 2011, and then we get Avengers. He's coming out of this the far fourth runner of the pack here with Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and Captain America.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you throw some of the other characters in it that they've introduced.
Black Widow,
Hawkeye.
Yep.
So he's in the distance.
Yeah.
But as the film itself, I was a huge fan because again, the Red Skull. You have what's his name that plays him, the Red Skull?
Oh, Hugo Weaving.
Just amazing actor, big fan.
You had who eventually turns into, I think, is Arnim Zola, Toby.
Who the heck would have thought that guy would show up later? I mean, you know a little bit about the background. Did you know he was going to show up later?
Well, it's the brilliance in Marvel that they not only take the big characters, and I'm not talking about heroes now even, because they're going to do the heroes.
Oh, well, yeah.
But with the villains, they take the guys like Loki and Red Skull. Those guys are going to show up. But what you don't know is guys like Arnim Zola or MODOK or I forget, I think it's the second Captain America at the beginning. We'll get into that. But Batroc the Leaper shows up. Who the hell remembers Batroc? He was like
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, a kickboxer plays. But the point is it's a nice nod to the fans.
Yes.
And that's what this is all about.
And that's again, smart thinking.
Yes. Stellan Skarsgård as a scientist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And reason why I mentioned him, back to Captain America, the end credit scene is they find
The Cosmic Cube.
the cosmic cube, and Nick Fury brings him down, saying, "We have this. We
Yeah.
need to start doing tests on it."
Yeah.
Which leads us right into the Avengers.
Right. Yeah.
And at this time, the Avengers was probably the biggest thing to ever come out. I mean, to intertwine just these 4 movies,
Yeah.
and to put them on the big screen is amazing.
Whatever flaws someone might have with the series, and I have friends, and I respect my friends who are comic purists and traditionalists more so than me. I'm going to find flaws. Yes, I didn't like maybe the way they portrayed Abomination. I thought should have been more reptilian-like. That's just me. I like reptiles. I like lizards, so I like. But the point is overlooking any kind of flaws in the series here. You got a company, you got an industry, not Disney yet, but you have Marvel Studios, which puts together something that never could have. Well, first of all, we know that they didn't have the effects, the visual effects, to put something like this together in the 80s.
Yeah.
It wasn't possible. You had, and maybe we could do a supplemental video after this of the efforts they did put forth in the 80s and 90s. The Doctor
boy.
Strange is 78.
No. But no,
But yeah, yeah.
this again, it was huge.
It was, yes,
And
absolutely.
everybody had their on-screen time.
Yes.
But to speak about what we just talked about with Cap being a distant, 4th runner, from what I understand, a lot of his scenes were cut.
Right.
And I think they used a lot of that for the second one, which we'll get to it when we get to it. But yeah, he was cut a lot, which it did kind of disappoint me a little bit. But again, you brought all these characters together. And, again, you have this huge scene, which I'm kind of one of these realists. You see all these buildings get destroyed, and you just think, like, my God, you know how much money and time it's going to take to clean up this mess in New York City?
Or all those people.
The people, are they okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, Avengers 1 was, again, that was just, I think I saw it like 2 or 3 times at the theater.
Yeah, same year. Yeah.
And I remember it being just jam-packed every time I went.
One of the most defining scenes, even as a film buff, I've got to say it, just like the comic fanboy of me when I was 12 years old, is when you get that round shot on them, the 4 of them just standing up in the rubble. Or the
After,
yeah.
when the Hulk comes and takes down that one.
And that is straight out of, you can take that out of a comic book page and just rip it out, and there it is on the film. And if that doesn't excite you as a comic book fan, then you probably have some deep-seated issues.
I was moved by everything. Because, again, I was always a comic book fan, even though I read more DC.
Right.
You didn't get that because you're the Batman, you had the Batman. Now, there were iconic Batman scenes.
Right.
There were iconic Superman scenes. But to have that, where you have all of your heroes lined up saying, hey, we got to go to war here.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then at the end, you have Thanos show up saying that I'm going to take care of things myself. He's already got the gauntlet.
Yeah.
It's definitely set things up. And I think at the time, weren't we told that Thanos was going to be the next villain in the next Avengers?
Yeah, I think so.
And then they kind of quickly changed that. But
no,
this is where we're going to stop. And obviously we'll pick it up, in the next batch of films. But definitely an iconic start with the first 5 films coming out. You got 2 Iron Mans, and then you get your other your other characters in there, and then also you sprinkle in the guys like the Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Yes.
And then your other minor characters with what's that?
Pepper Potts.
Yes.
You had
Pepper Potts, Natalie Portman.
Favreau played
the driver.
Yeah,
pretty nice when you're a director. I'm going to make myself the limo driver. But no, it's great. This second one, obviously War Machine has a bigger part.
Yeah.
So everything is set up for this thing to be iconic.
And Nick Fury.
Sam Jackson, man. You can say what you want. I don't think you could pick a better one.
No. He in a way, he was sort of like he was the one who organized the team, put it all together.
Yeah.
Stark couldn't have done that. He didn't have the idea for it.
And Stark was kind of a loner. They were all kind of loners.
Yeah, they were.
You had to pull them together.
Yeah.
Side note, while they were shooting the Avengers, and I think they were filming in New Mexico, they were filming Breaking Bad, the popular TV series. Samuel L. Jackson was such a huge fan of that series, he actually showed up and said, "Can I just like walk up to the counter and buy something in my Nick Fury stuff?" Well, there was no way that either side could get the rights or anything, so they never did it. But he actually showed up in his Nick Fury costume because he was such a fan. But yeah, so we're off and running now. I think the next film we get a year later to tease you is Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll pick up on the next video. So if you like what we're doing here, let us know. What are your comments? What's your favorite film out of those 5?
It's hard. As a fan of cinema, I'd almost have to lean toward the first Iron Man. As a comic fan, I'm more of a Hulk fan, as you know, so it'd almost be Incredible Hulk. But it'd be a tie because I'd almost have to just go with that first Iron Man. I mean, it is so... It's not just because it laid the groundwork and the framework for what was to come.
Everything, yeah.
But again, it's like you said, the direction on it, the writing, the story, and Robert Downey Jr., man.
He hit it out of the park, resurrected his whole career.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have to... I'm going to pick a different one so we're not in agreement, but my answer was it's easy to pick Avengers because it was so iconic and it been being a comic book and seeing your comic book come to life. And then obviously you got to go with the first one. Since you went with the first one, I'm going to go with the dark horse here. I'm going to go with Captain America, the first Avenger.
All right.
Going to give him a little love because he certainly didn't get any when it came out.
No.
Because again, Red Skull is one of my favorite villains. I wish I had read more comic books with the Red Skull in it because I'm such a fan of his.
And you had Neil McDonough as Dum Dum Dugan.
Yeah, there you go. And then again, do you know that Bucky was going to come back as the Winter Soldier?
Well, in the comics he did, but I had no idea again that they were
going to do that.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
So, but we will tackle that, I believe, in the next video.
Yep.
That's the 5. I think Phase 1 ends with Iron Man 3, if I'm not mistaken, but we will double check our facts before we start the next film. But we're off and rolling. We're not purists. We do this stuff on the fly. But thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yep.